Hello and welcome to my brand new series on something I love very dearly. No, not my friends and family. It's cocktails! So I don't want to bring up the dreaded C word, coronavirus. We were all locked in our houses and we had to fill the time somehow. Some people learned to crochet, learned a language. I learned the art of making cocktails. Now, I'm gonna prerequisite this with, I am no expert on cocktails, but I would say I am a cocktail enthusiast. So for this series of videos that I'm gonna try and do as many of as possible, I'm gonna be teaching you very quickly how I like to make cocktails. And our first one is one of my favorite cocktails of all time. It is a margarita. Had some terrible, I used to think I didn't like margaritas. In my 20s, I would go to a bar and I'd think, I'm gonna have a margarita. I'm gonna have a margarita. It's like, yeah. It's, you know, it's a grown-up drink. And I'd have a margarita and it would taste like shit. It would be pure salt, it would be imbalanced, it would be disgusting, and I just thought I hated margaritas. And there's so many people that will say to me, oh, I hate margaritas, I don't like them. I'm like, you haven't had a good margarita, okay? So, I mean, you do have to like tequila. The base is tequila. It's a kind of balance, it's a sours type drink, essentially. Apparently, I read this just before doing this, and I thought I need some history in these lessons. Apparently, margarita comes from an old cocktail that was called a brandy daisy. And that was basically brandy, citrus, and a liqueur, and replacing the brandy for tequila. Daisy in Spanish is margarita. So we have tequila, you will need tequila, you will need a liqueur, and you will need citrus. Limes, good fresh limes. They're your kind of three bases, and then there's some kind of finishing touches that I think make a margarita the best ever. There's two ways generally to have a margarita, to drink a margarita. You will either have a margarita straight up or you'll have it on the rocks. Now, I like my margaritas like I like my relationships. On the rocks. Let's face it, I'm not going to do anything straight up. I'm going to actually show you, because it doesn't matter how you serve it, you still make it in the same way. So I'm going to do it both. I'm going to do one straight up, I'm going to do one on the rocks for you. Let's get going. So, first off, you will need limes. Okay, now some people, just going to get my chopping board here. Some people would buy like freshly made, kind of like packaged limes. You don't really need that unless you're kind of having a party, all right? What I would say is, if you can, get your own limes, all right? And a little tip there for you as well, if you just roll your limes on a chopping board, it will kind of activate the juices, apparently. So it's really easy. Get a little lime squeezer like this, cut your limes like so, maybe get a knife that is not blunt. Get yourself a little glass just to squeeze the limes. Now this is where you can get your biceps going. Excuse my frozen plaster. I cut my hand. So yeah, really squeeze that fresh lime juice. Fresh lime juice is a game changer, and I mean, lime's so inexpensive. It just, I don't know, it's the best. And if you are having a party, if you can be bothered the night before, just squeeze it the night before. And a little tip for you actually, if you are having a party, zest a bit of the lime and infuse it the night before into the lime juice, and then sieve it out. Sieve it out, because a load of the flavour is in the zest. Margarita, I mean, it's a summer drink, but I drink it all year round, really. And once you get used to making it, it's really easy because the measures are basically divisible into each other. And yes, I love saying the word divisible. I'm going to make 2 here. So generally for a margarita, you need about 25 ml of lime juice. So that should be enough. One lime, I think, gets you about 30 ml. So if you do a few, do that. So pop that to one side there. Your limes, keep one of these discarded limes, because what you can do then, we're going to start rimming. Okay, the thing that is in margaritas is obviously salt, okay? Now, sometimes it is salt overload, so it depends on what you like. If you like a kind of sour taste, go for it. I like a half rim, okay? I mean, I'm in my 30s, grow up. So I like a half rim, but I'm going to do 1 full rim, and I'm going to give myself a little half rim there, okay? And then I've got, as you can see here, Kate on camera being marvellous. You just roll on the lime juice there, get yourself a little
salty rim.
Salty rim, that's right, Kate. And then a full one this side. If you were in a bar or whatever, they'd probably have like proper methods of how to do this properly. But this is just for at home. Probably, that's a lot of salt there. So you might want to get rid of some of that. Anyway, then what I like to do is I like to be a fancy little bitch and pop my receptacles in the freezer. Because we like a chilled glass onto making the cocktail itself. So, you will need tequila. You will need a triple sec liqueur. I personally recommend Cointreau. You will need limes, as we've discussed. You will need a little bit of salt. And I like, this is optional, to use a bit of agave syrup, but we'll get onto that later on. Now, oh my god, I need my cocktail shaker. Turns out I had my cocktail shaker. It was behind me. This is going great. So, get yourself a decent cocktail shaker. And now, I'm going to talk tequila for a second. Now, this particular tequila is a Patron. Thank you to the guys at Patron for sending me this after I bought it on their website and paid for delivery. I'm trying to be an influencer. So there's different types of tequila. There is a Blanco tequila, which is a lot clearer. This is a reposado tequila. And the difference between those two is basically a reposado, the barrels are just kind of charred slightly, and it gives it a more smoky flavour. I personally don't mind. I love a Blanco margarita, but generally the standard practice would be a reposado. But if you've only got Blanco in, by all means go for it. The only thing I will say is, get yourself a decent tequila to make yourself feel better the next morning. I'm gonna say it now, I'm not naming any names. If tequila has a sombrero on the lid, I ain't putting it in my mouth, okay? Because you will not feel good the next day. Ice, ice, baby. Ice, ice, baby. Get yourself decent ice cubes. Now, I have banged on about this before. If anyone has seen me doing cocktails before, and I have a monthly newsletter where I give a cocktail recipe. Surface area of the ice. You need some decent ice cubes, okay? If you've got minuscule, tiny little ice cubes, they're gonna disintegrate into the cocktail shaker very quickly, and it will make your cocktail feel very watery. Now, you wanna put your ice cubes in there. It's quite appropriate. I've got a frozen plaster, isn't it, when I'm dealing with ice? That's Anna. There, it's Anna. So I'm gonna put the ice in there, let it go. Decent amount of ice cubes in there. I am making 2 lots in this. It's a lot easier to do, so I will talk you through the measurements. A margarita is so easy, okay? It is 50 ml of tequila, okay? And then it is half Cointreau or triple sec. I personally prefer a Cointreau. So it's 25 ml of Cointreau and 25 ml of the lime juice. So always start with your less valuable ingredient, because if you go wrong, you won't waste a lot of stuff. So for this, it's 25 ml of lime juice, but I'm doing 2, so I'm going to do 50 ml. This is my little jigger here, little precise measure. I'm going to pour that in there. Same with cointreau, 50 ml of that. It's actually 25 if you're just doing one measure. I will post all the measurements on the page as well, so if you need the recipe. And this is one of my pride and joys. It was like, I think it was something like £8, and it's a precise measure, and I love it because it's really good for just, because all a cocktail is, it's balance, it's maths essentially. Because if you've got, you know, ratios that are all skew with, it ain't gonna taste nice. Woohoo! Tequila, tequila! No sombrero in here. So it's gonna be 50 ml. I'm gonna do 2 lots of 50 because I'm making 2, remember? Another 50 ml. I personally like a slightly sweeter margarita, okay? I personally like a slightly sweeter margarita. Oh, I can't do this because the ice is melting. So, let's put another ice cube in there to make sure. More ice the better. I hate it when people say, don't put too much ice in, I don't want it diluting. I'm like, the more ice you have, the more cold it is, the less it will dilute. So, God, mental. So, I like a little bit of agave syrup in mine. And the reason I use agave is I'm keeping it in the family. Tequila is made with agave, so keep it in the family. But if you've got a bit of sugar syrup, you can do that as well. And this is only if you like it slightly sweeter. So I'm just going to put, for this one, maybe 5 ml of agave, which because there's 2 in there, it's technically 2.5 each. And then what I also like to do is just a pinch of salt, okay? And sprinkle that in to give that, not too much, okay? This is a bit of a secret recipe I use. You don't have to do this, it's completely optional. But these are Bob's Bitters, Margarita Bitters, okay? And it's a concoction which has a bit of lavender in, because lavender really goes with the taste of it. And I just like to put a little bit of a floral taste in my margarita. And also, because it's a pipette, it really feels like you're doing it properly. Time to shake. The trick is with a shaker, when it gets a little too cold to shake, that's when you probably want to let go. But you need to give it a really good shake. And when you shake a cocktail, that basically lets a lot of air into it. It combines the ingredients. A lot of cocktails, you either stir it or you shake it. Sometimes you roll it, but we'll get into that. It's the first lesson. We're not going to run before we can walk, guys. Okay? But often when you shake it with ice, it aerates it, but it also combines all the ingredients that you wouldn't usually get with stirring. And then it's time to serve. That is how easy it is, essentially. So I've got my chilled glasses. Ideally, these would have been in for a lot longer. I've got my glasses here. I'm gonna fill one with ice, fresh ice there, or in margarita. And then we've got one which is served straight up. So if it's straight up, it's with no ice whatsoever. And if you want to be a little bit fancy, you can just do yourself a little lime wedge. This knife is terrible. I'm going to use a different one. Not very good with knives, which makes me slightly nervous.
Why you've got a plaster on your finger.
So just do yourself a little, oh, okay, that's just as blunt, and that's gone terribly wrong. You've got to wait. 10 minutes later, let's use a bread knife.
Ooh,
I mean, it doesn't look great, but I'm just going to pop that in like that. And there we have it. A margarita. Straight up or on the rocks. It is so easy to make. And cheers. I like a half rim. Let's taste this. Taste test. Oh yeah. And there we have it. The margarita itself. Oh, well the trouble is now, I have to drink it, aren't I? Enjoy. Let us know if you make it. It's honestly, do not be afraid of a margarita. People say that they don't like tequila and they say that they don't like margaritas and things like that. Don't go for the cheap option. There are so many good value tequilas out there. You probably want to look around the price range of about £25 upwards, okay? Because any other, it just tastes hideous. And it doesn't just taste hideous, but then the morning after, you will look hideous and you will feel hideous. And actually, I've had a few tequila nights with good, decent tequila where I've not woke up with a hangover. Just saying. So that's the margarita. It's one of my favourite cocktails. I would say it's in my top 3. I actually think it's probably my favourite. But I don't want to say it in front of the other cocktails, you know, get them jealous. I treat all my cocktails the same. So do join us. This is going to be a regular thing. Let us know if you want us to feature a cocktail. I'd love to do them. As I said, I'm no expert. Some people might look at it and go, ugh, never put agave syrup in it. For me, it is all about personal preference and it's all about what you like, okay? So if you don't like it slightly sweet, don't add the agave. But if you fancy it a little bit sweeter and not so sour, balance it out with that agave syrup. So cheers! It's the margarita, as we now know, is Spanish for Daisy. We're gonna go drink this now. Cheers!